We detonated 2,400 nuclear bombs on the planet. How many people know that? The Nevada detonations, which they did in total secrecy, right? We know now from peer-reviewed study, the downwind fallout from the Nevada nuclear bomb detonations killed no less than 700,000 Americans. That's peer-reviewed study. How many people know that? So again, they don't care about the consequences of what they do. We know as far as biological testing, according to the Washington Post, as of 1977, U.S. military had conducted no less than 239 open-air biological tests on innocent, unknowing civilians.
Oh, come on now. Biological warfare tests on Americans?
Yeah, I know you know. You must know that. Look it up. I mean, this is historical record, again, covered by mainstream media.
We had a revolution over a tea tax, dude. I feel like this, you can't put up with this. I
encourage all of your listeners to look up every single thing I state. That is very easy to find that statistic. Washington Post first published that in 1977. I hope it's clear from the statistics I'm citing. I'm not shooting from the hip. So again, this is business as usual, and why people can't face that is perplexing. And let's look at Zbigniew Brzezinski. I know you know who he is, former U.S. presidential advisor, going all the way back to Johnson. What did he state in the record? Your listeners can look this up very easily as well. He stated, with today's technology, it's far easier to kill 1 million people than to control them. You think these people are here to help? Really? So again, I want to stress that the amount of layers with this issue, and there's many legitimate causes of concerns at this point in time. If we don't deal with what's happening in our skies, we're not going to be here long. And let's look at, if we could look at COVID for a moment. We know that, for one, the world's second most recognized climate engineer, Dr. Ken Caldera, former DOD scientist, we own an audio of him at geoengineeringwatch.org. In his words, stating what he did for the DOD was to design methods of spraying pathogens into clouds to infect the populations below. We know in the outbreak of CV-19, at one point, 85 countries were infected in 3 days. That's indicative of an airborne dispersion. We know from Italian researchers, they found CV-19 attached to airborne particulates. Do not all these dots connect? They certainly would appear so. We know from our precipitation testing, we have polymer fibers and graphene in our rain. Graphene is like a vascular machete. I mean, it's listed in geoengineering patents for certain purposes. Again, they don't care about the consequences, but those two elements also, Tucker, are used militarily as biological carrier platforms to carry a pathogen from the clouds to the ground to infect the population below. Why is that in our rain right now? Could they, at any point of their choosing, put something much more lethal into the precipitation and level the playing field? Certainly they could.
This is also shocking. Have you spoken to elected officials about this, members of Congress?
Many, and I continue to. And many know I've had private meetings with Gavin Newsom at this California state capitol, his top aide, and not that individual would ever do anything for the common good. He wouldn't. He's there to serve those who have him on the end of their strings. No response there. I have on my desk.
I'm sorry to interrupt. So you actually said this, or a version of this, to Gavin Newsom, the governor of California?
Yes. And in fact, and what I conveyed to Newsom also, if these programs were allowed to continue, because I was focused more on the state of California and the impact here, that the drought catastrophes in California would be catastrophic. I supplied data, which he didn't try to dispute, because I've had meetings with California Energy Commission scientists as well, air quality scientists. You know, California's been concerned about, of course, the lack of precipitation, which affects our hydro power production, also affects Hoover Dam, Pitch Canyon Dam. But if your listeners looked at presentations I gave well over a decade ago, engineered drought catastrophe, target California, everything I said in those presentations back then is more relevant now than ever. Presented that data to Newsom, and the drought has continued, which they're not even disclosing now. Even in Northern California right now, they show zero drought. That's a blatant, glaring statistical falsification. It has never been drier here in regard to soil moisture and fire fuel moisture. They're lying about everything. They're lying about the UV readings on the surface. Blatant, glaring lies. We know about every single aspect of this equation. They're disclosing and metering only down to 300 nanometers in regard to the UV spectrum. That's half of the UVB spectrum. No UVC is even metered for, let alone disclosed. Same as the air quality particulates. PM10 is looked for, nothing below that. I've had California state air quality officials in a closed door meeting, 5 of them, tell me to my face, the system is rigged. We're testing for combustion particulates only. The rest goes out the window. Whole system by design to not show the immensity of damage being done. So back to Newsom and those officials, no response. Yes, they know. The Palisades fire, I'm sure that's fresh in your mind, right?
You very.
The ability for the climate engineers to shut off precipitation is far greater even than their ability to augment it. They can shut down rain as long as they want, as we know from the Middle Eastern countries, as I just stated on Iran. So in the case of the Palisades, no rain for 8 months. It's not an accident. These particulates are incendiaries. Aluminum nanoparticles are such an effective incendiary. They're used in military demolitions, thermite. That incendiary dust coats the forest floor, coats foliage. And when that builds up over time, that makes everything more volatile as well. I spoke about atmospheric pressure zones, which they can and are manipulating. And in doing so, they can manipulate surface wind flows, creating extreme zonal wind flow patterns, same as they did in Lahaina. Same thing, extremely anomalous low pressure zones, one to the north, which was an engineer high pressure zone, to the south, Hurricane Dora. Between those two, you create a bellows effect, a blowtorch effect, whatever the source of ignition. And many online speculate about that in very fringe ideas of what might cause the ignition. Again, that's irrelevant. What's setting the template for these fires to burn with such ferocity? And that is definitely climate engineering. And I'll leave it with this. We found a 140-page U.S. military document, which we posted, titled Wildfires as a Military Weapon. Within that document, 17 sites were named in the U.S. as study zones. LA was one. And in that described exactly the type of pre-preparation that we see happening in all these locations. Lahaina was declared a flash drought zone a week prior to that incineration. So we can speculate on the agendas and objectives being carried out. The fact that climate engineering is inseparable from these equations is absolutely indisputable. That document, by the way, also posted at geoengineeringwatch.org with the important sections highlighted. Shocking data.
Has there been any attempt to push back legislatively? Like, has the Congress ever taken this up?
Yes. Again, we have 36 states with legislation in some process. 2 states have already passed it. I'm communicating with an aide to DeSantis. I've had an hour conference call with Latipo there on the issue. We have some very rational people involved. He is. Yep. He very much is. His whole team was on the call. We've had Marjorie Taylor Greene just address this. That was publicized well. We tried to reach Mrs. Greene before this to try to give some compass heading, because if you fly into this blind, you can do more harm than good. And one thing we encourage, and unfortunately Marjorie didn't get this message, we hope she does at some point, don't open the entire climate scenario and mix it with this issue. And that's what she did. We want to keep the focus on climate engineering. And when there's a denial of the other sources of damage to the planet, that tends to immediately alienate half the people we need in this battle. So what we would try to encourage other legislators to do is, if the subject of the climate comes up, that how can we have any legitimate discussion of climate, anything, from any perspective, without first and foremost addressing this elephant in the equation? And that narrative is much more productive at building bridges instead of burning them.
So, I knew the climate was changing, of course, because I pay attention to nature. But you've just single-handedly convinced me that a lot of this is driven by human activity, just not your Suburban and your hairspray. It's driven by the U.S. military. Breaking news, Beam Cyber Sale is open for early access to the people who listen to this show, the select few, their best offer for the year. It lasts for 48 hours. Listeners of this show get up to 50% off by using the code Tucker. That means you can get Beam's Dream Powder for just $32.50. That's only $1.08 per night for the best sleep you've ever had. Visit shopbeam.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker. This is the lowest price Dream has ever been sold anywhere. Don't miss out. Probably sell out fast. Dream is packed with ingredients your body needs to sleep. Natural ingredients, nothing weird. Magnesium, melatonin, but dosed intelligently, not like the drugstore garbage that knocks you out and leaves you groggy. It's like a head injury. Totally different, better. Visit shopbeam.com/Tucker. Use the code Tucker. Get up to 50% off during Beam Cyber Sale. You can grab Dream for just $32.50, but only until it sells out. Think about it. How much would you pay to get a great night's sleep? 8 hours uninterrupted. With Beam Cyber Price, $1.08 per night. Shopbeam.com/Tucker. Shopbeam.com/Tucker. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.